Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? It's another little coffee conversation. I just went and got my Starbucks for the day. They're out of the brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso. So they make this special one for me that is a venti iced brown sugar oat milk espresso blonde with 3 pumps chai and 3 pumps honey blend. So it's kind of a similar taste. It's kind of spicy, and I usually get a venti iced blonde Americano with an extra shot, and I've been getting 2 raw sugars instead of sweet and low. Oh no, they don't have sweet and low anymore. Instead of what's it called? The yellow packages. What can't I think? I've lost my mind. A venti iced blonde Americano with an extra shot and 2 Splenda. 2 Splenda. Doesn't even matter. But every once in a while, I need something a little bit different. And weirdest thing, I was like, I was talking to an old friend of mine this morning. I've been going to bed earlier, and as you know, if you watched my video yesterday, and I have been getting up earlier. And today, I was texting back and forth with a friend of mine from back in the day. We were just talking about like people that we knew and like what had happened to them and where they were and stuff like that. And I was driving to Starbucks, and on my Peter Vlogs channel the other day, I had done this little adventure where I was like going to look for the house that my mom lived in when she was in high school, and I actually found it in the vlog because my cousin had sent me this screenshot of this is so crazy how I found it, but screenshot of the article in the paper about when our grandmother went to prison, and so it had her address on there. And so, oh my god, I think that this woman right over here is somebody that I used to work with way back in the day, getting into her car. Isn't it weird when you haven't seen somebody for like 15 years and you look at them and you're like, you don't even know if it's the person or not? But anyway, when I was doing that video, I drove by this church, and I used to go to this church every Saturday morning. It was like a 9 o'clock meeting. And they used to always, I remember they called it like the donut meeting because they always had donuts, and everybody loved that they had all these donuts and stuff there. And probably my first year or two sober, I went to that meeting like every Saturday morning. And so I was kind of thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about that meeting and going to it, and I was thinking about what my Saturdays used to look like when I first got sober. I just got so emotional, like from Starbucks to here. I don't really know what happened. It's like, I was thinking about, like, you know, 27 years ago, when I was going to that meeting, my mom hadn't even gotten sober yet. My mom got sober, her sobriety birthday was June 2nd. So she hadn't even gotten sober yet, because I was thinking I would go to that meeting and then I would go to my mom's house afterwards, and I would sit there and have coffee with her, and we would talk about recovery stuff, and then I could remember I would go home to my apartment and I would open all of my windows, and I had these long plants that like hung in my window, my sliding glass door window, and I would like play music real loud, and I was playing Bob Dylan on the concert for Bangladesh, which is like one of my favorite live concerts ever that you can listen to. And I don't know why I got so like, I don't know if it was sad that I was just like, you know, you wake up one day and it's like, I remember my mom, when she was in her 50s, one of the greatest things that ever happened to my relationship with my mother was her getting sober and my getting sober, because all of a sudden, this whole new relationship developed where, you know, I was able to be a son and she was able to be a mother. And we spoke this language of recovery. And we had, you know, 13 years together that we would never have had neither one of us got sober before that. But I was, you know, my mom and I, we would talk about like real serious stuff, and I can remember just kind of, you know, deep conversations. I would go over there and we'd have coffee, and I remember one time she said something to me like, you wake up one day and you're in your 50s and you look down and you're like, your hands look older. It's so weird right now because I just looked up and I listened to this station on Sirius Radio. It's Rock 33. And they play like all this music from when I was in high school, and they're playing OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, which was like one of my friends' like favorite bands when I was in high school. But I remember my mom saying, you know, you wake up and you're like in your 50s and you look down at your hands and, you know, your hands are a little bit more wrinkled than they used to be. And you notice lines on your face and you move a little bit slower. But like inside, like your mind doesn't change a whole lot. You know, it's like, I remember she specifically said, you know, like you could wake up, and I had this friend of mine at the time that I used to go pick up, you know, for school or vice versa. And I remember she said, you know, you could wake up and be in your 50s and it could be like me saying to you, okay, you know, Peter, it's time to go pick up your friend for school, and you'd feel like it was all a dream. Like, what had happened? You know, where did all the time go? And I can remember her saying that to me at the time, you know, and I would have been in my mid-20s when she said that to me, and I thought, no, that's never gonna happen. Like, that's crazy, you know? Like, I'm never gonna get to the point where I feel like where did the time go, you know? Like the Judy Collins song, like, where has all the time gone? But it's like I do more often than not these days wake up and I think to myself, like, and not necessarily like in a sad way, but it's, you know, people that I used to know have either like moved and I haven't talked to them in a long time, or they're no longer here because they've passed away. And 27 years ago, I got out of treatment and I started dating a guy right away. Not recommended, not suggested. We don't suggest that you get in a relationship for your first year of sobriety, which I got in not one but 3 relationships in my first year of sobriety. The last one, which was what I consider my first real relationship, that one was approved by my sponsor, but the first one lasted 2 months maybe. And the second one was with this guy, and I always thought I would end up with this guy. You ever have that, like, you know, there's just something magical there? And I always thought that I would end up with him. And I was taking a film studies class, and he was in my class, and we started talking, and that was how it started. And I can remember we would like make out in my car and during breaks between the class, and I can remember he would come over and we would have these like super long intellectual conversations, you know, till 4 o'clock in the morning. And he introduced me to such great music, and he was a bass player in a band. And I remember his band played at this thing that they do here in Indianapolis called the Carmel Fest. It's like this 4th of July festival that they have in Carmel, Indiana, which is a suburb. And he like really wanted me to come to this thing. And he was very closeted. And his parents were like really anti-gay, and this woman is literally coming here and parking like right next to me. I'm way out in the parking lot. I'm like, seriously? Do you see this? She did like a whole circle right around my car. Like, what are you doing? I'm like way out at the end of the parking lot. It's like it kills me that people do this, you know? It's hard to find private moments in this world today. But his parents were really like anti-gay, and I can remember you know, this was the time before cell phones, and he was still living at home, and I would call there, and his mom would just like hang up on me. I would be like, is Todd there? Can I speak to Todd, please? And she'd just hang up on me. It's just crazy to me. He was like almost 21 too, which is like, I look back on that and I think. So, anyway, I remember he had me come and hear his band play. And I don't know why, because I would usually never go to something like that alone, but I did. And he played the song for me he had written a song for me called St. Peter. It was like the weirdest thing. I remember sitting there like listening to this song. And then he called me later that day, because he was real standoffish at it. And he had made a decision that he was going to go to IU. He was transferring to IU Bloomington. And he said that he didn't want to continue to be in a relationship while he was on campus, and he wanted to go down there and, you know, be like free and stuff. And I was like, hey, I totally understand. Like, I don't want to stand in your way of all of that, you know? And then he and I would see each other like every couple years, and it would be like he would be with somebody or I would be with somebody. But it just never seemed to work out. And I remember the last time that I saw him, it was sad. He was just really kind of like a mess, you know, I could tell he'd been using pretty hardcore drugs. And then it was like a couple years after that, I was at a friend's house. She and I used to. So there were 4 years that I didn't go to meetings, and when I came back in, I came in with like a gusto. I was like going to like 7 meetings a week, 8, 9 meetings some weeks. And so Saturday nights, my husband would like go out with his friends, and I would go to this candlelight meeting. And it was like from 9:30 to 10:30. And then afterwards, my friend, she and I would like either go to like Steak and Shake, or we would go and like, you know, get food and whatever. She was a couple years sober at that time, like 3 or 4 years sober. And it was on the weekends that her ex-husband had the kids. And so we would go over to her house. She was about my age. And we would play like, she had this station that she would play on her TV. This played music, and they would always play like the Smiths. And I remember it always came up the song The Smiths, I Wonder. And somehow that song reminded me of Todd, and I was telling her about him, and I said, let me show you, he's so cute. And I looked him up on Facebook, and I started reading all this stuff, and he passed away. And anyway, I ended up getting in touch with one of his old friends who remembered me. And she was like, yeah, his parents didn't have a funeral. They didn't put an obituary out. They didn't do anything. Remember, I told Alex I came home. And this guy, and the way that I described it was this guy that I always thought I would end up with. And Alex was like, well, you can still end up with him if you want to. And I was like, hold on a second. He passed away. You're who I want to be with anyway. And, but it's weird, you know, it's like weird how much my life has changed. And you know, from day to day, from year to year, my life doesn't really look a whole lot different. It's like I go to meetings, I have a small group of friends, go out to dinner a couple times a week, you know. But it's like, and especially now, like Alex and I have been together 12 years, coming up on 13 years. And I mean, that's a long, long time to be with somebody, you know. And we've kind of gotten into our groove of what makes us happy and, you know, the life that we enjoy. And I look back on those early days and it's crazy. All the people that have come and gone since I got sober. And you know, I was thinking this morning about, like, I've had so many friends that have passed away from using since I got sober. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so, like, vocal about it on my channels, why I think it's so important, is because I've lost tons of people. Tons of people. And I was thinking about, like, all of the Saturday mornings I would have lost, you know? The Saturday mornings that I've just gone to get Starbucks, or that I've gone to a meeting, or, you know, that I've hung out with a friend and gone to, like, you know, the fresh market, or that I've been on vacation and been on the beach, or that Alex and I just slept in and went and got brunch. Like, all of the Saturday mornings, you know, that I would have missed out on had I never gotten sober. That I wouldn't even probably be here for today, you know? I'm really, really grateful. And that's just only one day of the week, you know? And I'm really, really grateful.